I don't have an agenda, basically, no questions, but just I came to my mind to share, with you and what your two questions only, and we can go anywhere with them. The first one is, what is life, and what do we want? What are we doing here? What is it that we really seek? This is the first, something we can. I think it's the most fundamental question of all, in my understanding. What are we doing? What is life? What do we really seek? Not even what is the purpose of life, that we don't know. It's a whole theory about it. Each one has his own idea, but from our experience, not from our intellect, not from our concept, not from our learning, not from our uh, you know a thought, in fact, but from our own experience. What is it that we seek constantly in our life? What is that thing? For each, it may be a different thing, but in general, what is that? And after that, we will explore another question that comes to my mind, and that is, what is healing and what needs to be healed, and how does one heal? I mean, the easiest answer would be to go to a doctor, but that's not the answer we are looking for. How does one look at the idea of healing? And not only from what we know, but from our experience, what are the things that have actually uh, taken us in the direction of healing? So, these are the two questions we can explore today, and I think that's more than sufficient for our agenda. And we can make it a bit conversational also, I don't
Yeah.
mind, because as I told you, I don't have a direction, and I don't think that we are going to find the answers also in this conversation, but at least we can
But
take baby steps towards that.
okay, Dr. Raj. So the first question, if I look back on my own life, in the year 2002, so I would say 18 years ago, which means I was 36 that time, there was a very significant event in my life. There's I would call it a crisis, or at least a mini crisis in a personal sense. So if I divide my experience of life into pre 2002 and post 2002, it helps me to contrast these two periods. And perhaps in doing that contrast, I can partly at least try to answer this question.
So I'm really happy you're going there, because what it means is you're not going to give us gyan or some kind of a bouquet, but
Uh,
you're speaking from your own experience. This is the best thing you can do.
okay, so so
I
till
think we heard a lot of gyan in the last 2 days. We don't need more of that.
but not from me.
Not from you, yeah.
I want to clarify
Yeah, yeah,
that.
not from you.
so so till 2002, I would describe it as a experience of just going with the flow, uh, growing up in a small village of Akurdi outside of Pune, a very charming upbringing which I have realized only now as to how unique, how precious, how nurturing, how nourishing it was to live the so called simple life in a factory colony amongst perhaps 100 children, if not more, to be able to wander out without fear, uh, without an escort, to be able to play 20 games in the same sports ground, to be able to climb big trees and jump down from them, to eat at the home of whichever friend's home we were close to. Um a very, very simple, uncomplicated life. We went to a very nice school close by. From there, I went to college, both in Pune and in the UK. Then I joined the company in 1990, Bajaj Auto. And if we come to 2002, it means I would have spent 12 years there doing my job, which was essentially in the area of manufacturing and R&D. So, if I look back on this experience, I would say I just followed the natural or the expected path, growing up, getting education, starting to work. And the experience of life, I would say, was more, if I use some homeopathic parlance, I would say it was more at the material level, more at the gross level, or more at the kind of result level, where whether one is playing a sport, whether one is studying, or whether one is working, there are some goals, there are some targets, and one is trying to work towards that along with the people that one is with. Then in 2002, uh, I was hit by a kind of personal crisis, uh, which was very new to me. Nothing I had done so far in 36 years prepared me for it. I had no understanding of the subject. I didn't really know anybody else who did. And the journey from there has been anything but a journey of going with the flow. In a way, it has been anything but simple and uncomplicated. But that doesn't mean it is better or worse. It just means it was not only different, it was diametrically opposite. Because it is, I feel that whether it is in mind or spirit, it is as if I was kind of reborn. I took rebirth at that time. I had to start all over again in dealing with a issue which was very dear to me. I had to learn everything again. I had to create a new network around me for that all over again, and grapple with something that very few people thought could be dealt with successfully. So if I look at this experience, the second significant experience of my life for the last 18 years, I would say, as opposed to being at a material level or gross level or a result level, this was at an immaterial level, at a more subtle level, at a more cause level. This experience of dealing with this crisis taught me a very valuable lesson, because I remember in my pre 2002 working period, we used to often, for example, even as managers, grapple with the question, do means, do ends justify means? And it used to be a very vigorous debate, because, as you can imagine, in a corporate world, while everybody wishes to uh, parade their conscience and good sense, and they will say that means are very, very important. But in the end, as it is said, you are judged not by what you start, you are judged by where you finished. So we get trained to think about results of targets or goals or whatever achievements we have articulated. And outside the corporate world, this may sound a little less significant than it is, but those who have worked in any commercial organization would know that in a way you live and die by these results on a daily basis. I give you an example. It would be unheard of in an automotive company like us for people to talk or to say that market share as a concept is not important. Market share is very important. pursuit of market share is probably one of the top two or three goals or metrics of any such company. But I have come to realize in through this second phase of my life that we have to work actually on the cost side of parameters, of levers, which lead to such results without uh, allowing the result, i.e., the tail, if it can be called that, to wag the dog. This is the kind of stuff we have all been taught when we are told about the Gita, that you must focus on the effort and not on the fruits. But when it comes to application, it becomes very difficult, especially in a large company. And I keep coming back to that because that's what my life has been about being part of Bajaj Auto for the last 30 years. It is very difficult to take 10,000 people in the company and its suppliers and dealers and the entire ecosystem of stakeholders like analysts, media, etc., away from this concept. But we are trying to do that. Again, a subtle or a cause side thought in that is one of the concepts of homeopathy, perhaps the primary concept of homeopathy as I understand it, of individualization. Because again, in the corporate world, we say that fundamentally we compete on differentiation. And differentiation to a company is nothing but individualizing the company to be unlike any other company, unlike its competitors, and compete on that basis. So, in this journey of last 18 years, so many such cost side things have come to my mind, and for me, therefore, life has increasingly become a pursuit of such people, such knowledge, some ideas, such concepts, uh, which are on the more subtle, on the more immaterial, on the cause side. This is what life has come to mean to me in the context of my family, my friends, my dogs, my work, my colleagues. And this is the practical interpretation to me of life at this stage.
But you know what? I didn't fully get the connection between, this incident in maybe 2002. How did that make this shift? That connection is not very clear because you say something happened, there was a crisis in 2002, and from that moment, I shifted my focus from the effect to the cause. Am I right?
That's right.
So it's not very clear how this shift happened.
So, to explain that, I should say that it was a kind of health or medical crisis. Uh, and in trying to deal with it, I realized that in, let us say, what we call the allopathic world, which I would say is more the world of material level, result level, gross level, in a positive sense. In that world, there was no solution for the issue that confronted me. And because I had no other choice, and not because of my wise choice or something like that, I was forced to look at alternatives, um, primarily in homeopathy and to an extent in yoga, which I would say are sciences or a body of thought or practice that I would say, or to me, seems to come more from a cause side, a subtle side, a immaterial side, and it is in developing an understanding of these bodies of knowledge and with the help of masters in this field that I could progressively bring myself into a situation which Guruji B.K.S. Iyengar described like this, that yoga helps us to cure what must not be endured and to endure what cannot be cured. So, in that sense, my understanding of life, I can also articulate like this, has come to be that life will never be perfect. Try as hard as we might to live in the moment, it is often easier said than done. But if people can find whatever it is that appeals to them, um, as I have in homeopathy and yoga, which can help them move more towards the subtler aspects of life, the more immaterial side of life, um, then I think this will stand us in good stead uh, whenever we need to draw upon it. It is, again, if I were to quote Guruji, he would say, nothing belongs to us. Even the air that we inhale must be exhaled. So, these kind of thoughts, ideas, concepts, I think represent a kind of core truth of life. And I feel that if people act out of that center, they may act with more goodness. This is what my experience suggests to me.
I think you have put it very well. If I may paraphrase what you put and make sure that I understand you right, you felt that during and after the crisis, the standard way of dealing with something which was more that I will make a change, I will affect it, I can bring all my power, like all the king's horses and all the king's men can be brought to put Humpty Dumpty together again, and it doesn't work. And so the the kind of perspective of life as that I can affect a change by putting my individual power or wealth or resources into it, and I can do things. This kind of shifted to trying to see yourself in a way as a part of something greater, and trying to go deeper into that understanding rather than trying to affect a change by your own power. Am I understanding you right?
Absolutely, Dr. Rajan. And I would elaborate on that to say a couple more things. Perhaps one is, I realized, as I think everybody who goes through the university of life does, irrespective of who or she is, that um, at some point you will be hit by something that all the resources at your command at that moment can do nothing about, as you said, which means you will need to seek some alternative, some different knowledge, some other truth which is not in your possession at that time. And this is actually a comforting thought, I would say, in a counterintuitive sense, because it means if you simply are not going to be prepared for it, then why worry about it? Because at least I am a worrier. I worry about so many things every day, and I have to keep reminding myself that this is the small stuff. This will be anyway taken care of. And when the big stuff comes, you are anyway going to have to start from zero. So why worry about it? This is one. And the second thought simultaneously, I would say, is that as happened to me, it was not that at that time in 2002, at the age of 36, because of some great money at my disposal, or because I was networked into some very powerful people, or because I was the managing director of a big company. Uh, the solutions which came my way, I would say from God, did not come through that. It came from everyday events, some very quirky ones, um, and it really instilled in me the belief that, as some people say, when God gives you a problem, He gives you the solution also. It is there in one form or the other in terms of people or ideas or some information out there that you may not be thinking about or observing till that point of time, but it is there. So that is also a very comforting thought, that when the problem is born, the solution is also born.
So what
Uh,
you're also saying is the solution at that level cannot be purchased, but the currency that you need to get it is just openness to the experience.
I would say that is 50% of it, and the other 50% I felt progressively over the last 18 years is, in the words of somebody I greatly respect, that is Mr. Narayan Murthy. He said that in describing, why it is important. to give back. He said that we have all eaten fruits from the trees that we have not planted. So I feel that in homeopathy, in yoga, in homeopaths, in yoga teachers, um, in the knowledge, and of course in the remedy, in the asana, I have eaten a lot of fruits which I did not at all make any effort to plant in the first place. So the other 50% I would say about the solution is that it also is a very humbling experience that makes you realize that some other people have over hundreds of years created these solutions, if we can call them that, so that you could benefit from it today. And it is definitely important for you to reflect and ask yourself that now what are you contributing today which may help somebody 50, 100, 200 years later, not tomorrow or day after. And therefore, definitely it channelizes the mind into that kind of institution building or that kind of vision to take something that is good deeper and further. That's what I feel.
So somewhere, am I right to understand that you we are coming back to the original question as to what are we seeking, or what do we want in our life? How would you answer that?
So, if I have to distill all of this into one sentence, then the idea or the description I would say that I like best is that we must leave this place better than what we found it when we arrived here. So, as I said, if I have benefited uh, from a certain ecosystem, uh, I must, I think, be aware and I must act upon that awareness to help that ecosystem to be better than it was when I found it 18 years ago.
So really, you brought out very clearly the difference in the two, major approaches of life. One is that where the individual sees himself as the doer and the, effector of things, and uses his resources, power, or whatever to buy and to purchase, and the other, he sees himself as a person who is living in a rented house, and he has to leave one day anyway. Whatever amount of palace he may own, it's going to be his only for a certain specified period of time. And is he going to leave that place in at least as good a condition as he found it, or is he going to leave it a bit more messier or a little bit more finer?
Right,
I think this is what you're trying to convey.
that's right.
As you said, Guruji said that even the breath you have to let out again. You can't even hold that breath with you. So if you can't have air, then what is it that belongs to you? This is a um, very, very healing thought.